comments over the email phone?
No.
No, none of those, okay. I'd just like to start out with, I'm hoping most of you read an article in the Dispatch here back in December, giving recognition to Joe Polkamp. And I just invited him to be here tonight, just to go over that and to congratulate him and thank him for all of his efforts for our parks. And I'd just like to read what, you go ahead and come on up, Joe, but I'd like to read what that article said. Polkamp inducted into Hall of Fame. That's pretty awesome. Baxter Park and Rex, Joe Polkamp was honored. Minnesota Babe Ruth and Cal Ripken Baseball announced the induction of Joe Polkamp into the Minnesota Babe Ruth and Cal Ripken Baseball Hall of Fame class of 2021. Polkamp has filled many roles in the Baxter Babe Ruth Cal Ripken program as a coach, a league director, field supervisor, and many other roles. Polkamp has also been a Minnesota State Babe Ruth Cal Ripken Assistant District Director and has chaired many Minnesota State tournaments as well as several Midwest Plains Babe Ruth Cal Ripken regional tournaments. Polkamp's name will also be added to the Minnesota Babe Ruth Cal Ripken Baseball Hall of Fame plaque in the Minnesota State Amateur Baseball Hall of Fame in St. Cloud. That's pretty impressive, Joe.
Thank you, guys.
And you have done a lot of work for us for a long time in our city, so we're especially proud of that.
Thank you. I want to say, you know, this is what I want to put at the Baxter Park office, if you don't mind. It's what I was given, and I think it's a great spot to be. A lot of pride for Baxter and Baxter's program. And I can remember when my kids were young, just starting out, a number of people said, well, you'll be going to Brainerd. They'll go to the Brainerd program. And I just thought to myself, why? And so from that point on, it was, let's build this program to what it can be. And as you can see, it's taken off. And this doesn't happen by me. It happens by the city of Baxter. It happens by a lot of great coaches that we've had, a lot of parents, a lot of kids. I've never got a base hit at that park. I never got a home run at that park. It's been all kids. So having that said, I give, you know, when I started 18 years ago back then, Roy Rowan was here and he had a vision, and you guys had a vision of building those fields the way they are, and that all made it all possible. So I have a lot of people to thank. I appreciate being honored here. I appreciate all of you guys' support. And as we move forward to the merger now that we have with the Brainerd Park and Rec program, it's only going to get better and better. I just look, we've lost numbers with COVID, and now we hope to get them back to where we want them to be. Because there's nothing better than fresh cut grass, beautiful field, chalks line, and the kids come into the field and they feel like they're in the major leagues. For a little kid, it's everything. And that's what, there's so much pride in that. And it just doesn't happen. It happens with Alex Scrunell taking care of everything out there. So there's so many people that go into making this so nice and fun for kids. And that's what it's about. We're trying to raise good citizens.
Well, we appreciate all your years of service, and you haven't burned out yet. And appreciate
You know, I was at the park this summer and a gentleman came up to me and he goes, "You're retired, huh?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I retired, and then I had to go back to work because I could never get any jobs done. When I go to work, I get jobs done at home too." So there's a lot of truth to that. So thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Okay, open forum. Anybody else that's here to address something that's not on the agenda, we would entertain those comments at this time.
Hi, it's me again. I'm Jim Rollins, First Lake Drive at Baxter. I'm here again to address the issue of obscenities on flags in Baxter. The two flags I mentioned before persist. One of them is obscured by frost right now, but I'm sure when it warms up, you'll be able to see it again. Since the previous meeting, we learned from Brad Person that really there's not a lot of legal things you can do. I mean, the law prevents interference here because of free speech laws. I thought Brad did a good job, but it's apparent that an ordinance is not the answer. So believe the citizens of Baxter still look to the city for answers. You hear, why don't they do something? Or probably the most common one I hear is, I can't believe that's allowed. So you received from Mayor Olson a letter that I had suggested could be used. And I said, I'm not gonna go into the details on that because you've already seen it, but I suggested a formal letter that stated the problem and request removal of the sign. The reason I think it's a solution is because it's not punitive. I don't believe it can get the city into legal trouble. But it does indicate publicly where the city stands on the issue. I also suggested if the sign is not removed in a timely manner, that someone, a representative from the city, go and talk to the individual. That didn't work in Crossway. Now, the individual could still be defiant and refuse to comply. But in that case, the city is still no worse off than if it had done nothing. And I'd say it's better to have tried without succeeding than not to have tried at all. It's important that the city takes a stand on this issue. Developing a standard, protocol, procedure, policy, whatever you want to call it, I'm sorry, lets the public know that their elected leaders have stood up for them. They have taken a stand. I'd like to share a quote with you from Malala Yousafzai. She's a Pakistani teenager girl that stood up for the rights of women and girls in the country. And what she said is, if people are silent, nothing will change. I'm challenging the council, for the good of our community, don't be silent. Take a stand. Also suggested to the citizens of our area, don't be silent. Let the Baxter Council know what you're thinking. So in summary, I want to paraphrase that quote and say it this way. When it comes to the public display of obscenities in Baxter, if our leaders remain silent, nothing will change. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening. My name's Gary Nemi. I live on the west side of Birch Lake. I'm here to give you my 2 cents worth on the same subject, profanity. When I first read, I don't know, I suppose a month ago now, the first article that appeared in the paper, my first thought was, who would do something like that? Well, I suppose the better part of a week went by, and it kept gnawing on me. And I thought, I can't let this go. So, Mr. Mayor, I emailed you, and I appreciate you responding to me. I also wrote to the dispatch. My letter appeared as open forum, and now I'm here. I wholeheartedly agree with what Jim just said to you. Something, you know, even though, and again, I don't agree with this, but it's protected by the First Amendment. In my mind, it's wrong. I don't think it's going to go away. It's going to continue to happen. And I envision one day a FU sign appearing next to the Welcome to Baxter sign on 371. Despicable. At any rate, I've done as much as I can do. You won't hear from me again. But I truly hope that you folks will, in turn, do everything that you can do to put an end to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I've tried to say this every time this has come up, that the worst case scenario for me is that the residents would assume by what they perceive as inactivity, that we agree with this. Of course, we don't. You know, I have 3 grandchildren that ride by there to go to the beach, and so, no, nobody agrees with it, nobody thinks it's right. The question is, you know, how would we tackle it? And we've tried to, so we're looking for research on all of those different things. But we will take your comments under advisement, and we will move on. Number 6, consent agenda. The following items are considered non-controversial by staff and are recommended to be read and passed in one motion. Any person, council person, staff, citizen, or meeting attendee can request one or more items be pulled from the consent agenda. Any item will be pulled and addressed immediately after the passage of the consent agenda. Otherwise, the following items will be passed in one motion. A, approve city council work session minutes from January 18th, 2022. B, approve city council minutes from January 18th, 2022. C, approve the payment of bills and finance report. D, approve the SEH professional services proposal for the County Road 48 corridor study in the not to exceed amount of $34,000. E, approve the sale of 2 retired 2017 SUV squads. F, approve the promotion of Matt Meyer to assistant chief position. G, adopt resolution number 2022-007 declaring costs to be assessed and ordering preparation of proposed assessments for the 2022 Foley Road, Isle Drive, and Fourth Road Improvement Project, municipal project number 4114. H, adopt resolution number 2022-008 setting assessment hearing on proposed assessments for the 2022 Foley Road, Isle Drive, and Fourth Road Improvements Project, municipal project number 4114. I approve police department to hire Kyle Roosted an entry-level patrol officer position to backfill the retirement vacancy.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Go ahead. Motion by Cross.
Second.
Seconded by Talbot. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Does not appear to be other business, Brad.
There is none.
We move right to council comments. Connie?
I want to compliment the Brainerd Dispatch, because I read in the Brainerd Dispatch today that you, I think, received 16 Minnesota Association Newspaper Council Awards, something to that effect. And I know we joke a lot about the Dispatch, but it's outstanding to be recognized by your peers, so congratulations.
Is it
Yeah.
done? Okay, Zach?
Well, I guess, I don't know, I feel a little weird that the people who brought up the issue have kind of left, but I'm at the point where it's clear that people want some sort of response. And as for the First Amendment issue that has been brought up tonight and was brought up before, and in response to the request for a government-sanctioned letter stating you should stop some sort of First Amendment protected activity, I just wanted to let you all know my response in the sense of, should we take up something like that as a voice of one in that sense. So I absolutely respect the opinions that were brought up here, and you would never find a sign or a flag on my personal property that had those words on it. I wouldn't want to be associated with the guy who has profanity in his yard. I don't want to be that person. Having said all of that, this is one of those issues that has been fought over at the Supreme Court of both the state and the federal government for the last several hundred years. People literally fought and died for the right to free speech. It's unfortunate that somebody would want to use their speech in that manner. And I have a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old. I'm sure there are plenty of parents who have had to define those words or find a way to creatively talk about those words as their kids ride by in the car and ask what that flag means or what that sign means and what have you. But there's a proper role for the government, and even sending a letter asking somebody to do something like that is not the appropriate use of the power that we have. Freedom of expression is clearly protected by the First Amendment. Minnesota Constitution, and I just cannot support any measure by any government entity that's designed to regulate the content of speech. So the city attorney talked about the Supreme Court case of Cohen versus California. I think that's a perfect analogy for what we're talking about here. It was literally the F-bomb dropped in a courthouse, a person wearing a coat with that word written across it. The Supreme Court decided in that situation that that's absolutely protected. One of the quotes in that case is, "One man's vulgarity is another man's lyric." And they talked about, in that case as well, one of the prerogatives of American citizenship is the right to criticize public men and measures, and that means not only informed and responsible criticism, but the freedom to speak foolishly and without moderation. And I just don't see how what we're dealing with here is any more than something that's already been well decided. And again, I absolutely respect and agree with the concept that I wouldn't want to be that person doing it, and I think the private sector just needs to be the arm that handles that. That's for community groups, churches, local organizations of private citizens who do not wield the power of government to do so. So that would be my starting statement if we're going to start a conversation about that topic.
Okay. Well, I feel bad they left because I told them they weren't gonna be done. Otherwise, they would have stayed, so I apologize. They just asked, will the council be talking about this anymore? And I said, no, not as a council. You know, and so otherwise they would have stayed.
And to speak to that, the whole point was to lay out that I don't really think there's much more to say.
Correct. Gotcha. Mark?
I have to agree with Zach on everything he said so far. On a positive note, I would like to congratulate our new Assistant Chief, Matt Mauer. I could tell the chief before the meeting, I think that's a great choice. Not knowing who any of the other choices were, but he'll be a great asset to the city, and he will continue to be a great asset to the city. So, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. City Administrator?
No comment, Mayor.
Any news from the attorney?
Nope.
Okay, looks like we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Ms. McCross?
Second.
Second by Lucio. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll see you sometime. Forget what the next one is.
Next month.
I think-
15,
I think we've got some.
13 days from today.
Oh, that's right.